In the vast, unforgiving expanse of the ocean, there are secrets that should never be unearthed, messages that should never be heard, and ships that carry more than just their crew. One such ship was the SS Ourang Medan, a name that still sends a chill through the spine of anyone who knows its story, a name whispered only in the darkest corners of maritime lore. It was a sweltering day in June of 1947 when the distress call crackled through the static of the South China Sea, carried on the invisible currents of the air. A frantic, distorted message that pierced the quiet routine of nearby vessels with a cry for help that was at once human and not. The Dutch freighter, the SS Ourang Medan, was in trouble. The radio operator on board the Silver Star, an American merchant ship sailing nearby, was the first to catch the faint, broken transmission. SOS, all officers, including captain, are dead, lying in chartroom and bridge, possibly whole crew dead. The voice was shaky, desperate, and then, after a long pause, one final message: I die. And then, nothing. Just an eerie silence, stretching out over the waves as if the sea itself held its breath. Captain John Morgan of the Silver Star, a seasoned sailor with decades at sea, listened to the silence with a heavy heart. He knew the seas were unforgiving, that ships vanished, swallowed whole by the deep without a trace. But this was different. There was something in that message, something that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up, a chill that had nothing to do with the wind or the cold spray of the ocean. He ordered the Silver Star to change course, to head towards the coordinates from which the distress call had been sent. The crew moved quickly, driven by a mixture of duty and an uneasy curiosity. What could have happened on that ship? Was it pirates? A mutiny? Or something else? Something worse? Hours passed as they sailed into a thick fog, the ocean of flat, endless gray under the overcast sky, and then through the mist they saw it, the SS Ourang Medan, a ghostly silhouette against the horizon, its hull dark and silent, no smoke rising from its funnels, no movement on deck. It drifted, aimless, like a corpse adrift on the water. As the Silver Star drew closer, Captain Morgan raised his binoculars, scanning the ship for any signs of life. But there were none. No waving arms, no shouts for help, just an eerie, unnatural stillness that seemed to hang in the air like a thick, invisible fog. He ordered a boarding party to be assembled. 4 men volunteered, each with a grim determination in their eyes. They were sailors, after all, and they knew the unspoken rules of the sea. When a ship is in distress, you answer the call, no matter the danger. They lowered a small boat into the choppy water, the oars slicing through the dark waves as they made their way toward the Ourang Medan. As they reached the ship's hull, they could see that the deck was deserted. The metal rails rusted and slick with sea salt. They climbed aboard, their boots echoing on the wooden planks, and that was when they felt it, the cold. A sudden, unnatural chill that seeped into their bones, that made their breath come out in visible puffs, though the sun was high and the day was hot. They exchanged uneasy glances, but no one spoke. The smell hit them next, a sickly, metallic odor that clung to the air that seemed to coat their lungs with every breath. One of the men, a young sailor named Ellis, gagged, covering his mouth with his sleeve. "What the hell is that?" he muttered. No one answered. They knew. It was the smell of death. The first body they found was on the bridge, sprawled across the floor, eyes wide open, mouth frozen in a silent scream. His skin was pale, almost bluish, and his fingers were twisted, clawing at the air as if in his last moments he had been fighting off some unseen terror. More bodies lay scattered across the deck, in the chartroom, on the stairs, all in the same state, eyes wide, faces contorted with fear, limbs bent at unnatural angles. It was as if death had come upon them suddenly, violently, leaving them frozen in their final moments of horror. "Jesus," whispered Ellis, his voice barely a breath. "What happened to them?" Captain Morgan stepped forward, his face set in a grim line. "Check below deck," he ordered. The men hesitated for a moment, then nodded, heading down the narrow stairs into the belly of the ship. The air grew colder, the darkness thicker. Their flashlights flickered, as if the batteries were dying, but they were new, freshly replaced before they boarded. The corridors were narrow, the walls close, the metal creaking with the ship's slow sway. They found more bodies below deck. Engineers, cooks, sailors, all with the same expression, that same look of pure, unadulterated terror etched into their features. One man, a radio operator, had his hands clamped around his throat, his mouth open in a silent scream. They reached the cargo hold, the door sealed shut with a heavy padlock. "Break it open," Captain Morgan ordered. Ellis, the strongest of them, swung an iron bar against the lock, the sound echoing through the empty ship like a gunshot. The lock broke with a crack, and they pushed the door open, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. Inside, the air was colder still, and the smell was worse, a putrid stench that seemed to crawl down their throats. The cargo hold was filled with crates, some marked with strange symbols they did not recognize, others stamped with the names of chemical compounds they could not read. But there, in the center of the hold, was something else. Something large, covered with a heavy tarpaulin. Ellis stepped forward, his hands trembling, as he reached for the edge of the tarp. He hesitated, then yanked it away. The breath caught in his throat. Beneath the tarp was a strange, metallic object, unlike anything they had ever seen. It was cylindrical, with strange markings etched into its surface, symbols that seemed to shift and change in the dim light. "What the hell is this?" Ellis muttered. But before anyone could answer, the ship shuddered violently, the walls groaning as if under some immense pressure. The men stumbled, clutching the walls to steady themselves, and then they heard it. A sound, low and guttural, coming from somewhere deep within the ship. It was like nothing they had ever heard, a noise that seemed to crawl inside their heads, that made their skin prickle and their hearts race. It was a sound that carried a strange, almost hypnotic rhythm, like a whisper spoken in a language they could not understand. "Back to the boat," Captain Morgan ordered, his voice tight with fear. "Now." The men turned and ran, their footsteps pounding against the metal floors, the ship seeming to tilt and sway beneath them. The sound grew louder, more insistent, a deafening hum that seemed to vibrate in their bones. They reached the deck and scrambled down the side, back into the small boat, rowing frantically back toward the Silver Star. As they pushed away from the Ourang Medan, they saw it. The ship seemed to heave, the hull expanding and contracting as if taking a deep, agonized breath. And then, without warning, it exploded. A massive burst of flame shot into the sky, the sound reverberating across the water, sending waves crashing against the Silver Star. They watched in horror as the Ourang Medan was consumed by fire, the flames licking up the sides, the smoke rising in thick, dark plumes. And then, as quickly as it had appeared, it was gone. Nothing but burning wreckage, sinking slowly into the depths of the ocean, swallowed whole by the sea. The men sat in stunned silence, their faces pale, their hands trembling. What did we see?" Ellis whispered, his voice barely audible over the crackling of the flames. But no one answered. No one dared to speak of what they had witnessed, of what they had found in the dark, hidden hold of the SS Ourang Medan. They returned to the Silver Star, but the story they told was met with disbelief, with skepticism. How could a ship, a crew, simply vanish into the night, leaving behind nothing but a fleeting whisper on the wind? And what was that strange object in the hold, the source of that terrible, bone-chilling sound? To this day, no one knows for sure. Some say it was a chemical weapon, a secret experiment gone wrong. Others whisper of ancient curses, of spirits from the deep that haunt the waters, seeking revenge on those who disturb their eternal slumber. And there are those who believe the Ourang Medan found something it was never meant to find, something that came from beyond the stars, something that drove its crew to madness and death. But one thing is certain: the sea holds its secrets close, and some mysteries are better left buried in the depths. And sometimes, when the fog is thick and the night is still, you can almost hear it, that faint, crackling whisper on the wind, that final, desperate message from the crew of the SS Ourang Medan, a message from beyond the grave, a warning to those who dare to listen. All officers, including captain, are dead, lying in chart room and bridge, possibly whole crew dead. I die. And then just silence.